Hello everyone, my name is Travis Knapp. I'm going to be talking about this flight scenario from Charleston to Cape May. It's a short trip overview. We'll be flying about 360 nautical miles VFR day across country from Charleston to Cape May. I'm a 15-hour commercial pilot, done mostly local flying, doing traffic spotting is my current job, flying in a Cessna. The aircraft I'm going to be taking today is a DA-40, an aircraft I'm not quite as familiar with, and I only have 8 hours in it. It's going to be a hot and hazy day, and then tomorrow is going to be a deteriorating weather conditions as well after my flight. And the reason for the flight is I'll be going on a family vacation in Cape May. So I'm going to go over the route now. As you can see, there's significant airspace considerations as we move further east, as well as we're going to have to cross the Appalachian Mountains. In addition to the Bravo and the prohibited and restricted airspaces, there's also a fair amount of MOAs and military activity as well on the East Coast. So talking about the DC Special Flight Rules area, you are going to need some training if you want to fly within 60 nautical mile radius of the DC VOR. So we're going to talk about that here in a second. Here's a zoomed in image of the DC Flight Rules area. So we're just going to try to stay north of that. I will go ahead and get that training. It is a short course with good information, but I'm going to plan to stay north of it just so I can fly at the altitude I want and stay a little bit safer away from that Bravo traffic. All right, and then one of our other considerations are altitude. So I'm going to pick 7,500. And that's going to give us over the Appalachian Mountains. So you can see that sector altitude is 5,200. Crossing the Appalachian Mountains, that'll give us 2,000 plus feet to clear those mountains. And that will also keep us below these MOAs here. All right, so talking about my proficiency, I am unfamiliar with the DA-40. I do have 15 hours of total time, so I've got a lot of time operating inside the ATC system, so I should feel comfortable with that. And then we'll be a little bit unfamiliar with the avionics in the DA-40 as well as its flight characteristics. As a pilot, of course, I'm going to go through my I Am Safe checklist. Currently, I'm not expecting to face any issues with any of my items from my I Am Safe checklist. All right, the aircraft is going to be up to date with all the Aero PC things from my flight school. It's got a recent oil change as well. It's a very capable aircraft with the G1000, the TIS, and the XM Weather. It's a low wing versus a high wing that I'm used to flying. I've logged almost all my time in a high wing aircraft. And it's got a stick rather than a yoke, which will affect my stick and rudder capabilities. And as I consider the environment, I'm going to go and run through my NW Craft checklist. So making sure I'm checking the NOTAMs, making sure I'm very familiar with the weather before I leave. And then as far as fuel requirements, we have more than twice the amount of fuel that we're going to actually need. Our range is going to be somewhere in the upper 800s nautical miles as far as range goes, and we only need to fly 360. So not concerned about fuel at all, and the DA-40 is going to provide us with plenty of gas to get where we need to go. All right, environment. The weather's not perfect. It is a VFR day. It's a little hazy, it's a little hot, and it's a little humid. So that's going to affect our performance. I also expect the weather to improve throughout the day as that haze burns off. Some external pressures. I am going on a family vacation. Mom's going to want me to be there for the family photo. So that's just something I have to talk to them and manage their expectations. I will be a solo pilot, so I will have I'll be the pilot in command, and nobody will be making any contrary decisions to me. All right, so just do some threat and air management here. So as discussed, unfamiliar airplane, I'm just going to make sure I study up on the DA-40, make sure I understand the systems, make sure I understand the G1000 user interface. Next threat is recent airplane maintenance. Just concerned that it got put back together, so I'm just going to keep an extra eye on my engine instruments and make sure that they're not showing anything that they shouldn't. Highly anticipated family vacation. I just need to make sure I talk to everybody in my family and let them know, hey, I'm flying a general aviation aircraft. Things happen. I might not be there exactly when I say I'm going to be there. and make sure I have a good plan B to get there as well. If that's driving, renting a car, taking a bus. And lastly, complicated airspace. How I'm going to mitigate this is just avoid these complicated airspaces. It doesn't take too much out of my time, and it lets me fly at the altitude that I want to. All right, and that concludes my performance. Here are my references for both my FAR and the Diamond DA40 specs that I pulled.